Yes, guys, what's up? So, Keith One Time Thurman, Shawn Showtime Potter, um, they are going to be facing off very soon. June 25th, the anniversary of Michael Joseph Jackson, his death anniversary. Shout out to MJ, right? Look, Shawn Potter, Keith Thurman, excellent, brilliant fight. All right, and it's one of those fights where you toss and you turn. But there's a lot of these boxing. For any big fight in boxing, you have to toss and you have to turn. Okay, but we're going to be talking about um, this fight in a bit in depth and what's gone on in the press conference and the mentality of both fighters and who's got the edge and whatever. Right, we're going to talk about it. Now with Showtime, Shawn Potter, he's had a loss to Kell Brook. He's rebuilt himself. He's faced Adrian Broner and he's whooped Adrian Broner. He whooped Adrian Broner. Shawn Potter has beaten Julio Diaz. Shawn Potter has whooped Paulie Malignaggi. He's also beaten Devin Alexander. His resume is solid. Keith One Time Thurman, on the other hand, has beat Robert Guerrero. He retired Julio Diaz. He's beaten the best fighter, I think. Nobody ever talks about this. Nobody ever talks about this. But the best fighter he's beaten, Keith Thurman, is actually a guy by the name of Diego Chavez. Diego Chavez, right, is a very underrated fighter. He's good. He's very, very good. He's just so underrated. Who's he lost against, really? Where his losses come from? Who has he made really strong? And look, Brandon Rios, like, Diego Chavez is legit. He's a really good fighter, believe me. And Thurman stopped him. Okay, so for me, that's Thurman's best win, and it's his best win on his record. I think Robert Guerrero's a good win, but I think where he shined. I mean, look, Thurman's beat Collazo, Thurman's beat Guerrero, and he's beat Diego Chavez. So for me, Keith One Time Thurman is a legit very good fighter, right? But look, Thurman is coming off a car accident. He's coming off inactivity. He's coming off criticism. He's coming off a little bit of depression, I've heard, right? So with Keith One Time Thurman, can he overcome these obstacles and beat a very active fighter in Shawn Potter? Because he's not just facing a tactician in Shawn Potter, he's facing a guy who is very, very active. So it's not like he's coming back and the other guy's gonna, it's gonna be a boxing match and each one of them's gonna time each other and whatever. No, Shawn Potter's gonna come in, he's gonna duck, and he's gonna grab and he's gonna maul and he's gonna brawl and he's gonna, like, it's my man behind me, Mike Tyson, right? Mini Tyson, Shawn Potter. Shawn Potter is a very, very, very good fighter. Shawn Potter is gonna manhandle Keith Thurman, he's gonna hurt Keith Thurman, but this is the thing. Looking at the two, Keith Thurman looks in a totally different dimension in terms of size right now, but that's not all lean muscle. It's not all lean muscle. You see, Keith One Time Thurman can punch very hard. He's got one hit knockout power. If Keith Thurman gets through Shawn Potter, which is a very difficult ask, we're gonna have to see Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence, because Spence comes forward, he's aggressive, he's got more effective aggressive. He's got a more effective aggressive style than Shawn Potter has, in my opinion, has Errol Spence. But look, with this fight with Shawn Potter and Keith One Time Thurman, I think it's a really good fight. I just think it's so good because, I mean, you look at the dimensions of what could happen. Could Shawn Potter knock out them? He could stop him. Could Shawn Potter win a unanimous decision on work rate? He could do that. Could Keith Thurman outbox Shawn Potter? He could do that. That's possible. He could just do a Brook and unanimous decision. Can Keith Thurman knock out Shawn Potter? Very likely high knockout ratio. So, do you see what I mean? This fight is just... I like it. I really, really like it. It mixes well. They gel well together, these two fighters. And in boxing, you have to get two fighters who gel well. But see, the thing is, Thurman's going to definitely be the one on the back foot because Thurman is the guy who boxes. Shawn Potter only has shown one way and knows one way, and that's forward. Shawn Potter, he can box a little bit, he can move on the back foot a little bit, and he controls range really well, and he's fast on his feet, and he doesn't get tired, Shawn Potter, at all. And yeah, he can go on the back foot a little bit, but predominantly he's actually a come forward, very aggressive fighter. So, for me, now let's just bring Al Heyman into this, because who does Al Heyman want to win this fight? Al Heyman's not going to have really any bias because both fighters are legit and both fighters are very good. However, the more marketable fighter out of the two has to be Keith One Time Thurman. Thurman's undefeated. Shawn Potter's taken a loss to Kell Brook. Thurman has knockout power. He talks better than Shawn Potter. So definitely if I was Al Heyman, I'm going to want Keith Thurman to win. But I don't think Al Heyman's going to have any bias or any input in this fight in terms of judges or scoring. So that part's legit. So overall, Ludabella's promoting this fight. Ludabella is getting heavily involved with Premier Boxing Champions, which is very good. I actually like Ludabella quite a bit. I'm a fan of the promotional style of Ludabella, and I'm a fan of him myself. So with Ludabella getting involved, I like that. Okay, I like the PBC. I like the free network because this is what boxing needs to get back up to the number one spot in the world. It needs to be on free TV and it needs to be available to viewers who don't watch boxing. Because as soon as you start grabbing little fans from here and there and you break down the barriers to entry, you'll start to see boxing pick up substantially as a sport, and that's definitely what we need. We need matchups like this shown on free TV, whether it's in America or the UK. The problem that we've had with boxing is that when Mike Tyson came along and Oscar De La Hoya and Top Rank, they converted the model of boxing from being a sport for everybody to being a sport for the dedicated fans, because they knew that boxing was such a good sport that people would be willing to pay money for it. Other sports, people aren't willing to pay money to watch it. So although they might get viewership, their fans aren't as dedicated as the boxing fans, and it's a bit sad that the promoters are robbing us as fans to watch these boxers and the sport we love. That's a bit sad. So I'm happy to see boxing return to kind of a format which is free of charge, and I want it to go to the masses and to fans around the world. Okay, so look, back to the Shawn Porter Keith Thurman. Thurman and Porter have obviously come off similar paths. They've come from, and you heard this in the press conference, where they've both come from similar backgrounds, similar upbringing and type of things like that. Shawn Porter is from Ohio, whereas one time Thurman is from Florida. So they're from totally different areas. Keith Thurman doesn't really come from much of a really bad neighborhood or anything like that, but Keith Thurman is definitely legit, and he's got a lot of demons inside him, a lot of past, and he's very emotional about his trainer Ben. He carries that in the ring with him. Keith Thurman fights with emotion, he fights with his brain, and he fights, he gives it his all. Keith Thurman's out there to make a legacy for himself, as is Shawn Porter. Both these fighters aren't very money hungry. They're not driven by money. Both these fighters are driven by passion for the sport and leaving a solid legacy. So that's going to drive them further. I think fighters who fight for money, just for money, and Mayweather isn't one of them. Fighters who fight just for money will not achieve in the sport what fighters who do it for the sport will achieve, all other things equal. So leave your comment section below. Please make sure you subscribe. Shawn Showtime Porter, Keith One Time Thurman. I'm going to break the fight down a little bit for you guys before I end this video. Look, Keith Thurman, okay, he's a type of fighter. He likes to move. He'll keep his hands down. He'll keep his hands up. He'll jab. He's very, very fast on his feet. He's very, very elusive. He's not got the best IQ of how to control the real estate in the ring. So what I mean by that, he doesn't move back just enough to get out of the way of the punch which Kell Brook did against Porter. He moves totally out of the way, which means that he can gas out easily. He can get walked down easily. Not easily, but he can get walked down. What stops him from getting walked down is he has some serious, serious dynamite in that right hand and in the left hand as well, actually. They call him One Time for a reason. Shawn Porter, fighter who comes forward, right, bob and weave, bang, bang, right, and you can definitely see the Tyson in him, but the thing is, he doesn't come from a Catskill school of boxing, so he hasn't got the Tyson style. He's got the bob and weave style, he has to grab, but he's very messy as Shawn Porter. He's very busy though, that's what makes him effective. He's a very busy fighter, very active, very fit. His fitness wins in fights. His strength training and his fitness, so we see this more and more in boxing, where fitness and strength training is what is winning some of these athletes fights now, not so much the skill, but when they come up against the skill will always out-trump the raw power. That's my opinion. That's what I was always taught as a youngster. So for me, look, Shawn Porter's excellent, very good hard worker in the ring, but Keith Thurman definitely has the boxing IQ, and he definitely carries a one-hit knockout power. Shawn Porter doesn't actually have a lot of knockouts on his record. He's more of a fighter who can wear you down and tear you down, and he definitely punches hard enough to get your attention, but he's not got that one-hit bang crack what Keith Thurman has. Shawn Porter can maul you. He can wear you down, go to the body, go to the head, and if you don't want none of it and you haven't got power to keep Shawn Porter off, then you're in trouble. Thurman, on the other hand, does have power to keep Porter off, but he himself, taking the hands out of it, taking the punching power out of it, Keith One Time Thurman isn't really a fighter who can take a lot of punishment. I don't think he's a fighter who can take abuse to the body and abuse to the face. You see someone like Saul Canelo Alvarez, who's facing Americano on May 7th. is a fighter who could take a lot of punishment. I think even Porter can take punishment. Certain fighters can take punishment and abuse, and they can like stand there and just take it, and they'll come forward and they're rugged and they're rough. Like Rios is one of them. But you see, then you get other. I think Keith Thurman is definitely a fighter with. I don't think he's got a glass chin, but I don't think that he can withhold shots as good as some fighters, and I don't think Thurman can hold shots to the body as good as some fighters. But what keeps opponents off is going to be that straight right hand or that uppercut or the punching power of Keith Thurman. He's definitely got the power there. I don't care what anybody says about he's not had enough knockouts, etc., etc. He definitely holds significant power in both hands. But look, it's going to be a really interesting style matchup. This press conference kicking off June 25th. Don't miss it. Shawn, Showtime, Potter, Keith, one time Thurman. It's going down in a bit, guys.